Episode 2 of the Queen's Connection is here, fresh off a 2-1 series win in Cincinnati. The Mets currently sit at 3-6 now in third place in the National League East. Thank God that the Miami Marlins exist, or else the Mets might be a little bit lower. But we're not going to focus on the negatives. We're going to focus on the positives because the Mets got their first series win of the season, as I mentioned, taking 2 of 3 in Cincinnati. I'm your host, Andrew Patton. This is the Queen's Connection podcast, a production of Patton Sports Creative, and I'm so glad to be joined by the contributor, the co-host, whatever we want to call him, Mr. Corne Hogeveen. Corne, good afternoon over there, because it's afternoon where you're at. It's morning where I'm at. So how are you doing today?
Doing well. Happy with the series win. We desperately needed that. So let's get into that.
Let's get right into it. You don't no waste no time, because you're a very busy man. So let's kick things off with the Friday game where the Mets defeated the Reds 3-2, and it's finally good to see Jeff McNeil come through when he did a big home run in the 8th inning. That really turned out to be the difference in the game. Obviously, Quintana going 5 innings, allowing the 1 run, or actually 5 2/3, I should say, because Drew Smith came in to finish off the inning. But the Friday night game on Apple TV Plus, just any takeaways from that game in particular? We mentioned McNeil. We talked about Quintana, but anything else you want to mention from that Friday win?
Well, first of all, Apple TV didn't help me because I wasn't able to watch the game because apparently I tried a free trial and I was logged in, but I was blacked out in the Netherlands. So
Well, maybe they're discriminating against the Dutch.
maybe that would be a bad thing. Apple is from I don't know what Apple is from Steve Jobs, right? Who's now not with us anymore. So
Correct.
So yeah, I can be mad at I can't be mad at him, but yeah, it was a game where I saw the highlights. So obviously that's not yeah, I don't have that much notes on that game, but obviously McNeil with a big hit, big home run. That was the difference in the ball game. Diaz, who allowed a run, but I still thought it was pretty nasty. So that was good. The bullpen did its job again. And Jose Quintana, man, I mean, the guy is such a professional pitcher. He's so underrated. Every time I hear that or I see people not putting respect on the name Jose Quintana, but he had another great start, and he's off to a tremendous start this year. So that was the main big point for me that Quintana was strong.
Yeah, Quintana going 5 2/3 to 1 run, which was earned because it was the Spencer Steer home run. 4 walks, 4 strikeouts. He had some traffic late in his outing, but was able to get out of it, which is always good to see. And the bullpen shut down the Reds, like you said. Diaz allowed the run, but it's an unearned run because of his fielding error, which is kind of ironic. But that's just how the rules are. And his first save of the season, first save in a long time. So that was obviously good to see. And just a really good win for the Mets that built some momentum maybe after that win against the Tigers. So they were sitting pretty at 2-5 after that win. So let's go to the next game, Saturday, where the Mets unfortunately had some hiccups later in the game, and they lost to the Reds 9-6. But let's focus on the positive here, and that was Luis Severino. He went 5 innings, three hits, 2 runs, only 1 was earned, 2 walks, but 7 strikeouts. He looked really, really good in this game. I know he had a bit of a long second inning. Maybe a couple calls didn't go his way. But really, after that second inning, he really, really settled into the game. And it was the guy we had talked about on the previous episode. What do we want to see from him? And you talked specifically about throwing that fastball up in the zone, and he definitely did that, and it was very effective. So pat yourself on the back if you want to. If you want to take a victory lap, I'll give you the chance to do so. But what did you think about Sevy in that game?
I mean, he looked tremendous. His fastball upstairs did work. Got a lot of swings and misses on that fastball. And I mean, the second inning, it was tremendously unlucky. The fly ball that Taylor misplayed. I mean, that doesn't happen a lot. That Tyrone Taylor misplays the ball in the outfield, but he did there. Then the error followed. Um, Couple of walks, but I mean, he threw a ton of pitches in the inning. So he got that strikeout to get to 2 outs, and then he walked the ninth place hitter. Um, I give him a pass on that because it was a high stress, high leverage inning, and um, obviously you want to see him keep the runs off the board. But I think he threw like over 30 pitches in that inning, so difficult early in the season to throw that many pitches, and it wasn't his fault. I mean, two runners that got on base were on the defense. So I was really impressed how he bounced back and settled down after that second inning and really gave us five because after that second inning I thought he was over 50 pitches, so he really had to settle down, get some quick outs. He did that. The walks, I think only the two walks were in that second inning. So yeah, like I said, a lot of pitches, give him a little bit of a pass on that. But his main thing is the fastball. Last year the fastball was rocked, and this year the fastball is back. He had a minus 14 run value on that pitch last year, and right now he's already at +3. And if you look at his expected slash against the fastball this year is 235, 292, 251. I mean, that's great on your main pitch. And last year he had a slugging percentage over 600 against that same fastball. So the fastball is back. I think that's a huge plus, a huge thing to see in Luis Severino. And I mean, if he has a good fastball, he's a very good pitcher. That was the main issue last year. So I'm very excited after the first two starts.
Yeah, and diving into the box score here, we had talked about the last podcast about that top of the order uh, not getting the results they want, but showing positive signs. And each guy had a game in this series where it looked like, all right, they're kind of rounding into form. And Saturday it was Brandon Nimmo who went 2 for 4. He had two RBIs and a typical Nimmo walk in that game too. So that was really good to see. Narvaez had the good game at the plate. Behind the dish was a little bit of a different story. I mean, we can dive into that if we want. Uh, but unfortunately, that I think that long second inning, like you said, that wasn't Severino's fault because the Taylor misplay. I think he might have lost it in the sun or something, and just a little unfortunate there for Severino to throw those 34 pitches in that second inning. It meant that the Mets had to go to their bullpen a little early, and after the game, they said they only really had three guys available, and they had Tehran, who they signed recently, available, but I think that was really break glass in case of emergency kind of thing. So he definitely didn't want to do that. So Diekman comes in, he gets the first two guys out, but then he walks a batter, hits a batter, and then the Reds are able to get a run on a pinch hit single, and then they pull off a double steal where Narvaez threw the ball down to the second base, and the runner from third came home. So the two runs were charged to Diekman in that sixth inning. And fast forward to the eighth when they're trying to get Johan Ramirez to give him two innings out of the pen, which he did, but he kind of had to take one for the team. A couple unlucky things, and the Reds just kind of took off from there. Uh, Narvaez on a nasty slider thrown by Ramirez goes through his legs, and the batter's able to reach first base. So just a rough day behind the plate for Omar Narvaez, and do you think that is really what did the Mets in that game was just some lackluster plays defensively? You think that was the main reason why the Mets weren't able to make it three in a row?
I think so. I mean, from the second inning on with the two plays I mentioned, it didn't help. It brought the bullpen who was already taxed after the rainouts. That didn't help. I mean, two rainouts and then the double header where you mostly use all of your relievers and then a close Friday night win. You know that early in the season you aren't going to push your high leverage relievers into 3 games in a row. So Mendoza, at that point, his hands were tied. Severino threw 99 pitches, if I'm correct. So um, not wasn't he wasn't available to go another inning. I get that. So you had to trust your lesser arms in the bullpen uh, to do maybe a little bit more than they are used to. I mean, Yohan Ramirez probably wouldn't be in a game in the seventh inning with a 1 run lead, especially not getting a second inning. I mean, he will get 2 inning outings, but not with a small lead like that. So uh, there was a very small um, room for error, and the Mets defense. I think Omar Narvaez scored this good offensive game with a terrible uh, one behind the plate. I think that slider that you mentioned that Yohan Ramirez threw, it would change that inning drastically with uh, getting the out instead of runners at first and third, if I remember correct, with no outs. So Ramirez really was really pushed, and the Mets didn't have necessarily a good option to go to another. Maybe Pablo Lopez, you could have brought him in, but I mean the damage was already done at that point. So yeah, I don't think it. I don't think Mendoza could do anything other. Just the bad defense from especially Omar Narvaez.
Yeah, and
To,
it was unfortunate too because the you talked about Ramirez. He pitched the seventh inning as well and looked really good. A quick 1, 2, 3 inning there, and you kind of had to have a little confidence going out there with with the way he looked in that seventh inning. It's a guy who's already pitched a multi-inning outing this year, where you're thinking, all right, just get him through this eighth inning, and then like you said, probably Lopez would have pitched the ninth. Uh, but it was just unfortunate because some things went. It was is what Gary said in that on the call. It was a Murphy's Law inning where everything that could go wrong did go wrong. It certainly did. So unfortunately, the Mets couldn't mount much of a rally in the top half of the ninth inning. They did get a run thanks to Brett Baty. I mean, we'll definitely talk about Brett Baty in this when we kind of do our full series outlook on this. Um, so the Mets came into Sunday in a rubber game. They sent Sean Manaea to the mound, and uh, Sean Manaea was very good yet again. Gave him 5 innings, just the 1 run, 3 hits, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. Looked very good. I know he had a little bit of a hiccup in the fourth inning when the Reds got their run, but was able to get a big double play ball hit to Brett Baty. And when we talk about Baty having a good offensive series, he was extremely good defensively in this series too. But we talked about Lindor or Nimmo having his maybe breakout game. When this game, it was Francisco Lindor who went 2 for 5 with 2 extra base hits. It was a double in his first at bat, and then a home run in the fourth inning to put the Mets up 3-0 at that point. And the bullpen was very good in this outing when everyone was available. Jorge Lopez, Brooks Raley, Adam Ottavino, Edwin Diaz closed it out. They all had scoreless innings. So the Mets were able to win the rubber game. They take 2 of 3 in Cincinnati. And let's just talk about Sean Manaea here for a second because I sent you something they were talking about on MLB Network last night. Manaea, the hits he's allowed this year, only one has had like I think what they call maybe elite like exit velocity. It was 95 miles per hour or over, um, and the rest are like 70 miles an hour or less. Just very soft. He's inducing a lot of soft contact. And Manaea was one of those guys. High upside leverage arm that they picked up like Severino. And each of those guys showed what they can be when they're at their best. And Obviously you probably want them to go a little bit longer than 5 innings. But we're early in the year. They're going to build up their arm strength. I'm sure these guys will be able to give the Mets, 6, maybe 7 inning outings sometime this year. But let's talk about Manaea because this was the guy you were kind of on. We had the text evidence in the offseason. You talking about
Mhm.
high upside arms. Sean Manaea has certainly shown his upside in these first two starts. Just what you think about him this outing, and is this something that Manaea can really continue throughout this season?
I mean, kudos to Driveline because that fastball has a lot more zip to it for Sean Manaea, and he gets a lot more swings and misses on that fastball. Added a sweeper, which is nasty. He used that a lot yesterday, so he used his changeup a little bit less because he said that he didn't necessarily have the feel for it. So it's pretty good to see that when he doesn't have a feel for a certain pitch, he can go to another pitch and still be filthy. And um, that's what a starter is all about. I mean, that's yeah, there's a true four pitch mix. He can throw every pitch for strikes. Every pitch is pretty darn good. If I'm looking at it, at least, I think every pitch does his purpose very well. And just from that left side, has a lot. He's a very tall guy, so he gets to the plate uh, with that long motion, long stride to the plate. The ball gets out there even faster. So those couple of MPHs on that fastball really helps him a lot. And you see it. You see that hitters are late on the fastball a lot. They swing under it a lot. He pitches upstairs nicely. That's something I like to see in fastballs too, and it works with how hitters are attacking pitches. So it's just tremendous. And what he did in the second half last year seems to me it doesn't seem like a fluke. He had a good spring too. He started out well. I think this is the real Sean Manaea, and I'm very pleased that not only the Mets took Sean Manaea, but also that he was on my radar for the whole off season. So that's another pat on my own back. The second one today. So I'm doing well after this series.
That's too many for my liking, but whatever. So I mentioned Brett Baty a couple of times. He went 5 for 12 in this series with an RBI. Just some really good at bats, even that end in outs, flyouts, whatever. They're still really good at bats. I know the his first at bat in this series was that little kind of fluke, blooper down the third base line, whatever. But hey, it counts as it's what Keith Hernandez says, it's a line drive in the paper the next day. But no, Brett Baty really having a hot start to the season and defensively as well. He made a great diving play in the first game of the series to potentially save a run for Quintana. And was really sharp on that double play by Manaea yesterday. Got the ball out quick to second base, and because the batter at the plate, Bubba Thompson, as we saw, he was swiping bags like crazy. So it's a guy who's got speed. But so getting that ball out quick to McNeil at second base was huge. So McNeil can make a nice turn. So we talked about Beatty the last podcast, a guy who was maybe on the potential on the outside looking in if Ronnie Mauricio was healthy. So Beatty currently with a 290 average, a 740 OPS. Now they're going to Atlanta. Can he keep the hot bat going and the hot defense going?
Yeah, I mean, why not? He looks so comfortable right now playing baseball, and he talked about it um, at the start of the season that mentally he had an issue last year with the mental side of the game. He really um, battled his struggles, and right now, I mean, he's gonna have a period of time where he struggles. Every hitter will do that, but I have a lot more faith that he gets out of it sooner right now than last year. And he's just like you mentioned, he's taking good at bats. Even if they're outs, he's taking good at bats. He's seeing pitches a lot better than last year. I think his walk rate is up, so that's a positive point. Seven 740 OPS. I mean, you take that from a second year player who struggled that much in the first year. Um, he's one of, and it's cold weather, by the way, so hits will probably are easier to come by, especially power when the weather gets warmer. So 740 for me. I saw his expected slash line. I don't know it out of off the top of my head, but it was around 900. So OPS. So he has also been a bit unlucky if you consider the contact of the baseball he had. So on the offense, he looks a lot better. The defense, I mean, that double play you mentioned, Bobby Thompson is one of the fastest guys in the major. So and he wasn't out by just a step. He was really really out. So it was a tremendous turn double play by McNeil, but the key to that double play was Brett Baty getting that ball and getting rid of it so quickly for McNeil to be able to turn a double play. And obviously the catch with Quintana was a tremendous play. So he saved at least 2 runs, in my opinion, on those 2 plays. So that's huge.
Yeah, I think maybe another guy to, as people say nowadays, give their flowers to. And this might surprise you because I'm very critical, maybe is the correct word with this guy, but Starling Marte had a really good series at the plate too. He picked up 4 hits in this series, and obviously he had the double groin surgery last year. Didn't look like himself, and coming into this year, it was just kind of assumed that Marte would be back to his regular form, whatever. And I wasn't necessarily sold on that just because it's an Asian player who made a living with his legs or is very effective with his legs and having the double groin surgery. I just didn't think anything was guaranteed with him, like some people were making it out to be. But he's had a really nice start to the season. He's hitting 273 with a 745 OPS. He's got some of those stolen bases, a couple in that series against the Reds. He's looked good in the outfield. So I mean, Grant, we're just a little over a week into this season, but he's looked good. I have to give him his props. He's looked really really good to start the season.
Yeah, I mean, your concerns were legit. Starling Marte, I mean, I always think with players who use their legs a lot, if they have issues with their legs, it's they just be a lot less valuable to a team. However, he did stole a lot of bases last year in limited time, so that was still good to see that he was still able to steal bases. And this year, if that guy gets on base, he will add more value with his legs. He's still a good runner, still steals his fair share amount of bases. So to me, that's a fun player. The Mets aren't necessarily a powerhouse, so we need those guys stealing bases, and it's tremendous to see. If you look at guys who have started out really good, it's actually are probably the biggest question marks offensively for guys who need it for who we needed to have a good or bounce back season. Maybe only McNeil, who is off to a tough start, but those 3 guys. Um, Alvarez was, I mean, he hit the home runs last year, but I think overall the bat wasn't what you necessarily expected out of him. And you see what he's been doing, Beatty, obviously, and then Marte, the 3 biggest question marks for pretty important hitters. I mean, we know Bader isn't necessarily
A
the
hitter.
hitter yeah, so he's there for his defense, so don't count him. So those 3 guys were huge. So to me, that's actually a pretty good sign because the other hitters who still struggled, they will figure it out. They are veterans. Pete Alonso won't go 0 for a series in every series. Lindor will break out. Nimmo, even with struggling, he drew his walks and he will figure it out. So I think it's a great sign that those 3 big question marks are started the season off pretty good.
Yeah, you mentioned Alonso. Tough series for him. He took an 0 for, didn't get a hit in the series. Struck out a couple times yesterday and on Saturday, and kind of just looked like the Alonso we saw during June of last year, where he was just kind of chasing those sliders, mostly low and outside. But like you said, it's a veteran guy. You expect him to probably just bounce back pretty easy. And he's going to a ballpark where he's traditionally hit well. He's hit some of the longest home runs in that ballpark down in Atlanta. So we can jump into this Braves series real quick if we want to. The Mets are going to be gearing up for a 4-game series with the Atlanta Braves in this new scheduling format where everyone plays each other. You don't play the Braves as often as you used to. So these games are very valuable, even this early into the season. You always want to beat your division foes, especially a team like Atlanta, who's been one of the best teams in the National League, one of the best teams in baseball the past couple of years. So, like I said, it's a 4-game series. We can dive into the pitching matchups as Julio Teheran will make his Mets debut against the Atlanta Braves, which is very funny. He's going up against Charlie Morton, who just seems like he could be pitching like till he's 50 years old. He looked good in his first start. Game two, Adrian Hauser against Ronaldo Lopez, a converted reliever to starter. So he had a good outing his first time, as did Adrian Hauser. Wednesday, it's Jose Quintana against TBD because that was supposed to be Spencer Strider's spot, but he's got a problem with his UCL. So it's not determined who will be starting for the Braves that day. Although they did say in the broadcast yesterday they think it could be Bryce Elder, which is really good pitching depth to have. So kudos to the Atlanta Braves and their player development there. And then the finale on Thursday, a 12:20 Eastern Time start, so a good old afternoon game on getaway day. Luis Severino against Max Fried, pending free agent Max Fried, one of the rare Braves to not get a contract extension. So let's talk about this series for a second. The Braves, they said on the broadcast yesterday, they have a team OPS of coming today of 900, which is just insane. But we know Atlanta is a very, very good offensive team. So, in your mind, what's best case scenario in this series for the Mets? I think obviously sweeps are very unfair to expect from a team. I mean, if it happens, holy crap, that'd be awesome. I won't be complaining, but I think it's unfair to expect that. So, in your mind, what's the best case scenario for the Mets leaving Atlanta Thursday night, coming back to New York?
If you win the series, so 3-1 would be huge. I will definitely take it to a 2 series. We are on the road. This team has beat us up uh, a lot, and they are just a great ball club. That, like you mentioned, the offense, it's it's out of this world. It's such a good and deep and balanced lineup. Even if they miss guys, Sean Murphy, I think they miss him. They have Travis Darno, who is out there and probably a starter on many of the other ball clubs. So they just have a tremendous team. And like you mentioned, they lose Strider, who we actually hit pretty well against, and we get Bryce Elder, who, off the top of my head, we aren't that successful against. So you think, oh well, we missed Strider, but maybe we got the worst of it in that case. Max Fried is off to a terrible start, but still Max Fried. So um, I mean, that's not necessarily something I look forward to. I do think Max Fried uh, is a very good pitcher, very pretty underrated pitcher. I hope he has a sucky year so we can pick him up next year for maybe a little bit less money. I would be all for that. So it's going to be a tough series. There's no. I mean, tonight's matchup is probably not in our favor, with all due respect to Julio Teheran and with the bullpen. Still, I mean, Edwin Diaz, Ottavino, I think they both worked 3 out of the last 4 games. So you hope on one hand that you need them, but you know that when you need them, that they won't be available on Tuesday. So uh, one thing that I think the Mets really should do well is hitting. I mean, our pitching has been tremendous, but this is a real test. If you can shut this lineup out, then this is a very good pitching staff. We can say early on, and Stearns did it again. But it's tough to expect that this Atlanta ball club will be shut down like the match pitching staff was able to do, and be pinpoint on defense. By the way, because if we give them outs like we did on Saturday, yeah, that's gonna hurt.
Yeah, the Braves are a team that will take advantage of any opportunity that's presented to them. So you got to be crisp defensively. And you talk about the pitching. The pitching, I believe, coming into yesterday had like a starter ERA of like 2.16, and obviously that went down with a Sean Manaea's outing. So getting good starts is huge. Like you said, probably some guys in the bullpen, some big arms that are probably not going to be available tonight. So if you can establish a solid lead, or in this game, and maybe not have to put some stress on those guys, that'd be huge. Obviously, that's asking a lot because Braves are a good pitching team. They're also a very good hitting team. So when you got both of those, it's hard to be a team like that. But funny things happen in baseball. You never know. So hopefully the Mets, I would agree with you, can take 2 of 4 of this series. I think that would be huge. Obviously, anything better than that is just icing on the cake. But if you can at least split this series with the Braves, that would just be huge. And then you got the Royals coming in, who they've pitched well, but there's some guys that are offensively struggling. The Pasquatch, I think they call them. So. But that's just jumping too far ahead. We got to focus on the Braves before we worry about the Kansas City Royals. Oh, you
We
got
have the next podcast to
we
to
get
talk about the.
that's right, that's right. We'll have another podcast talking about the Kansas City Royals, and hopefully talk about a good series against the Atlanta Braves. Just before we jump into the minor leagues, there was some talk that JD Martinez might be ready or might come up for the spray series. That's not going to be the case. He's got some what they're calling general body soreness from ramping up. He played the 2 games in St. Lucie, did get a hit. So he's not going to be with the Mets, maybe the Royals. So we'll see about that. Also, another guy who began a rehab assignment that not a lot of people are talking about, but had a good start for his spring training is Max Kranick. He pitched 2/3 of an inning, I think I saw for St. Lucie yesterday. So there's some pitching depth maybe working its way back. And then I know you're not a big Mets historian like I am, but there was the news last night that Jerry Grody, the catcher for the 1969 Mets and one of the better catchers in the franchise's history, did pass away at age 81. So just want to send condolences to the Grody family at this time. So obviously a very big impact on this team and its history. So just wanted to mention that in our podcast. So let's jump to the minor leagues right now. On last week, talked on Friday. We listed off the series and who was playing who. So Friday night, Syracuse lost to Wilkes-Barre Scranton. That's the Yankees team, 8-4. And then opening night for the Bennington Rumble Ponies. That was a game we watched. They fell to the Fisher Cats 5-2. Wilmington beat Brooklyn 4-1, and St. Lucie walked it off. Colin Houck, first round pick with the game winning RBI in 10 innings there. The next night, Syracuse had a doubleheader, and they swept it from Wilkes-Barre Scranton. But unfortunately, there was some injury news to go with that. We can jump into that after this wrap up here. Bennington got their first one of the year, 9-3 over New Hampshire. Wilmington beat Brooklyn 4-2, and Daytona beat St. Lucie 6-2. And then on Sunday, yesterday, Daytona beat St. Lucie 2-0. Wilmington beat Brooklyn 1-0. New Hampshire took down the Rumble Ponies 8-4, and Wilkes-Barre Scranton beat Syracuse 7-2. So, like I said, some injury news to report. Drew Gilbert left the game on Saturday. It looked like, I mean, I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but we've seen hamstring injuries before and just kind of like how players react and you're kind of stretching it out, whatever. So it's definitely a leg injury, it looks like, which is very disappointing, obviously, for one of your top prospects. So hopefully nothing too serious, but it does present chances for maybe someone else to kind of get on the radar if Drew Gilbert's going to be out for an extended period of time. So we'll see what happens there. Just any thoughts on Drew Gilbert and the potential impact it could have on the minor leagues and even the Mets at the major league level.
Drew Gilbert, I read he had a mild hamstring strain, so you are right that it was the hamstring. You also said that when you saw the clip. Um, it's obviously a blow. I mean, Gilbert is pretty close to the major leagues. He's a guy who we obviously um, keep a close eye on. Um, it's never good if one of your top prospects are hurt. But I mean, Drew Gilbert's probably right now not necessarily in the picture to get on the squad. And I think the outfield right now, very injuries, is pretty sad. So not necessarily concerned in that case. I think he will be all right. Take some time off and get back. Um, so yeah, not overly concerned about Drew Gilbert. Luckily, it's a mild hamstring strain, so that's a big plus.
Yeah. Was there anyone from this weekend of minor league baseball that caught your eye, or anyone you wanted to highlight on the podcast?
We watched Joander Suarez for Binghamton opening day, and one thing, if you take Binghamton with the pitching you have, who was the opening day starter? I think many wouldn't guess that it was Wander Suarez. He had every right to be their opening day starter. Last year, since he joined Binghamton, he hasn't allowed a run, and he kept that going with 5 scoreless innings. I thought he looked tremendous. The fastball was around 93, the broadcast said, but his command of that pitch was really good. Got out of some jams there after a rocky first with some walks. So he was a guy who again showed in Double A. Before Double A, he wasn't necessarily on anybody's radar. He was so in his time before Double A, but since Double A, he those hitters in Double A can score against Wander Suarez. I mean, Double A is a pretty good competition, so he's doing his thing, and he's yeah. I mean, he's another arm that maybe found something in the Met system. Pitching lab, we hear it all the time, and I think we this weekend, actually, we saw a lot of evidence of that. Calvin Ziegler pitched tremendously. Jonathan pitched tremendously, and he had like 9 strikeouts in 4 1/3 innings. No, 11 strikeouts in 4 1/3 innings. And Calvin Ziegler had 4 no-hit innings, struck out 9. So um, those are, the little bit under the top tier arms uh, in the Met system, and they all pitched tremendously this weekend. So that's such a good sight to see.
Yeah, Wander Suarez on Friday. He pitched 5 innings, 2 hits, no runs, like you said. Don't think he's allowed to run since getting promoted to Double A last year. 2 walks and 6 strikeouts. Something that kind of stuck out to me. Another guy who's I doubt he's in the top 30 prospect list on the MLB pipeline, whatever. But just that game in Binghamton, if anyone watched or saw highlights, it was cold. It was snowing at one point. It was windy as you know what, and Jose Peroza hit opposite field home run, and it was crushed. And then the broadcast said uh, estimated 435 feet the opposite way on a cold, I guess we can say snowy night in Binghamton. That was very, very impressive. So uh, Peroza, a big guy, can play mostly anywhere in the infield except maybe shortstop. But no, maybe something just a guy to watch. Very impressive pop with the bat there. So that was it's definitely something to see from that game Friday night. And we talked about this too going into the game. Obviously, the Syracuse is highlighted with Drew Gilbert, um, Luis Angel Acuna, Christian Scott, Mike Vassell. The guys we've really heard about. Binghamton's got some really good prospects too. Obviously, Jet Williams is there, Kevin Parada, but Alex Ramirez was the opening day center fielder. Jeremiah Jackson, who they got in the Dominic Leone trade last year, is down there, and we know he's got some pop in his bat. And the guy you really like is JT Schwartz, the first baseman. So there's really this Binghamton team from a position player standpoint too. No, they got some headliners with Jet and Kevin Parada and Alex Ramirez, but also got some really under the radar prospects that could be really good.
Yeah, I mean, they could help. Depth is important. We say that every year, um, and the guys like JT Schwartz, Jeremiah Jackson aren't necessarily the guys that probably will be everyday guys on a major league roster, but they could help a ball club. Uh, I always like how JT Schwartz takes his bats. I think he's a nice contact hitter for first baseman, mostly First baseman, you like a little see a little bit more power. So he's a little bit of a different hitter, maybe kind of like James Lonely type hit. James Loney. It's not that lonely, James.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's so that's you need those guys. You need the depth guys, and it's good to see another guy we saw make some tremendous outfield plays. Rylan Thomas was a tremendous defensive outfielder. So that's fun to see. Alex Ramirez is a everyday uh, caliber type of player, and he had a bad year last year, and he's off to a great start this year. So that's tremendous to see.
yeah. With Alex Ramirez, you sent me a text about this. You said he looks like what the Mets are trying to establish now, and that's just really good athletic players, and he can play anywhere in the outfield. He's tall, he's lengthy, it's hard to say he's got five tools, whatever, but you can see the potential that he has. If he develops some pop like they think he can, uh, then you're really talking about maybe having a potential five tool player on your hands. And to go with Jet Williams, who's could be thrown into the outfield at some point if that's where his future is. A Drew Gilbert, your outfield, you know, prospect depth, it could be really, really solid. Maybe one of the best in baseball.
Yeah, 100%. And if you have those guys in your outfield and in your lineup, they again, I mentioned that earlier in this podcast. You aren't a powerhouse, but you score runs, running, saving, with great defensive play. Williams is walks. I hope Alex Ramirez he's had a good series with walks this previous series, so that's good to see. But if those guys can get on base, they will be the Milwaukee Brewers or the Cincinnati Reds, what we see running all over the place, totally steal bases, being athletic, saving runs. I think Milwaukee. It's not a coincidence that we say Milwaukee, right? That's how David Stearns built that ball club. Get some power in there in some spots like first base and DH. That's what he's done, and with Milwaukee, and have athletic players all over the field. And yeah, I'm pretty excited for the future to see those type of teams on the field for this Mets ball club.
Yeah, certainly no doubt that with the way baseball is nowadays, getting athletic is definitely the way to go. Any parting words as we wrap things up here? Anything people should be on the lookout for in this 4 game series with the Braves or in the minor league level?
Not really. The series will be tough. I think the Braves. Don't be mad if we lose a couple of games or even lose the series. Don't be disencouraged by that, because I think that Atlanta Braves with the Dodgers are maybe even I think they are better actually than the Dodgers. So they are probably the best team, the best regular season team that's out there. So don't be disencouraged if we lose the series. I hope we get at least a split, obviously. But that's just a great team in their ballpark. I think that's also so we have to look a little bit at maybe underlying numbers in this series to really um, to really see what this team is about. And after that, obviously, we have to start winning. But coming off a good series, we started 0-5, and we are 3 out of 4 since that. So the record won't show that. The record will still be 3-6, but that's that's obvious after an 0-5 start. So I'm really happy with the last 4 games, and even the doubleheader. The first game could have gone either way. The first game of that Tiger series could have gone either way. I think the only series we um, really were worse than the opposition was the Brewers series. I think since then we are at least equal to our opponents, and there weren't bad opponents. So it's not as bad as many people think right now.
3 of the last 4 and 2-1 since we dropped the first episode. So maybe this is just the kickstart they needed. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Queen's Connection, the New York Mets podcast, a production of Patent Sports Creative. Make sure to follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter as well. We also will post episodes on YouTube. So we're there as well. So make sure to subscribe to that as well. Obviously, hit any notifications. So when we drop something, clips, full episodes, you are the first to know. But that's going to do it for this edition. Corne, we thank you for joining us yet again, and we hope to do the same thing this coming Friday and hopefully talk about a good series down in Atlanta.
We go for it. Let's go, Mets.
Let's go, Mets. Good partying words. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the series in Atlanta. We will talk to you on Friday, previewing the Royals and recapping the Braves series. So thanks for listening and enjoy the 4-game series.